What is going on, guys, and welcome to another video. In this video I wanted to talk a little bit about progressive overload and progressing your training numbers. I get a lot of questions about how I progress my training, how I apply progressive overload to my training, and how I use a logbook to help me with my progressions. So in this video I thought I would take you through exactly how I progress my training and exactly how I set up my logbook. Simply put, progressive overload is progressing your training over time. So as long as you are overloading your training in reps or in weight over time, that is you applying progressive overload. Do you need a logbook to be able to apply progressive overload to your training? No, absolutely not. A lot of people who go in and train just to train actually end up applying progressive overload to the training without really knowing about it, just because we get stronger over time as we're in calorie surfaces, as we're training harder, and we just begin to get stronger and stronger. We add more weight to the bar, we lift more weight, and therefore we are applying progressive overload. But using a logbook is one of, if not the most optimal and easiest ways to prove and show a trend of progressive overload over your training. Firstly, let's talk about progressing your training numbers and how you should go about that. First things first, for me, you should have your training set out. So you should have a training program that you are following. Each exercise should have a specific amount of sets where you're supposed to be doing a specific amount of reps, and you know exactly what you're going to be going in the gym to do. If you don't have a specific training program which is structured the same week in, week out, or rotation in, rotation out, then your exercises are going to be in different orders, in different sessions, and you're not going to have consistency when it comes to your training. Therefore, your progressions are not going to be consistent. So tip number one is get yourself a structured training program in place. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could literally be an order of exercises with a specific amount of sets and a specific amount of reps for each one. And that way, you know you're going to be doing that week in, week out, and keeping it consistent. Once this is in place, what you need to be doing is setting yourself some baseline numbers for the weights that you're lifting. So the first thing you'll do is go in, set yourself some baseline numbers in the rep ranges that you've set yourself. So for example, we've got a dumbbell chest press, 2 sets in the 8 to 12 rep range. You will set yourself some baseline numbers. Let's say we use the 20 kilo dumbbells for 2 sets of 10. They're your baseline numbers, and then the next time you come round to that movement again, you will look to progress those. How should you go about progression? So for me, you should look to try and climb to the top of the rep range before you increase the weight. Let's take the example of the dumbbell chest press that we just used. If we did 2 sets of 10 with the 20 kilo dumbbells, we should look to try and get that to the 2 sets of 12, which is the top of the rep range, because we're working in the 8 to 12 rep range, before we increase the weight. If we could get to 2 sets of 12 with the 20 kilo dumbbells, we could then increase to the 22s or the 22.5s or wherever the next increment is in your gym, and you can then work your way from the bottom of the rep range, which is 8 reps, back up to the top, which is 12. For me, a golden rule is never increase the weight until you've hit the top of the rep range. We can also look to progress by the set. So if your first set was, let's say, the 20 kilo dumbbells for 10 reps, and your second set was the 20 kilo dumbbells for 8 reps, you could then look to try and progress that first set on to 11, 12 reps and then increase the weight, but treat the second set as a completely different set and progress that to 9 reps, 10 reps, etc, etc. The second set may be different to your first set in terms of the numbers that you hit, simply because if you're putting 100% into your first set and you're maximally stimulating the muscle, you may not be able to get the same amount of reps out in your second set, so you may even have to drop the weight to make sure that you're within the rep range, or you might just get a few less reps and the progression on that one may be a little bit slower than your top set. But it's not something to worry about, because as long as you're still seeing linear progression, which you're going to be proving with your logbook, then you should be absolutely fine and you are still progressing. Something that you should be thinking about before you look to progress the weight or the reps is what you're keeping consistent when it comes to a movement. For me, progress is not progress if your technique is changing as you progress the weight, your tempo is changing as you progress the weight, or your range of motion is changing as you progress the weight. Those 3 things should stay absolutely consistent throughout your progressions in a movement. As you're increasing the weight on a movement or the reps on a movement, your form should always be exactly the same. You should standardize form from the get-go. The tempo that you're moving at in terms of eccentric and concentric movement should be exactly the same. You don't want to be moving quicker as you start to progress, because that will make the movement easier. And finally, range of motion should be exactly the same as well. You should be trying to get the most out of each movement using a full range of motion. Do not sell yourself short by shortening your range of motion and again making the movement easier. As long as you're keeping those three things consistent, then any progress you make in terms of weight or reps is 100% progress, and you know that you're going in the right direction in terms of getting stronger and being better than you were last time round. What I'm going to do now is show you exactly how I set my logbook up and exactly how I use it to track and progress my training numbers.
Purchase your tracks today.
So this is how I like to set up my logbook. I like to write the name of the session, the name of the gym and the date at the top, and then I will order the exercises downwards from left to right. I write the rep ranges that I'm going to be using on each set, and then next to that I will write the weight and the reps that I got on each given set as well. So this is exactly how I do it, session in, session out, so I can look back through my book, see exactly what I got in terms of last time's numbers, and then I look to beat them each session round. For example, on this first single arm chest supported pull down, if I got 60 kilos for 15 reps in the first set, I would write 60 times 15. Then on the second set, if I got 60 kilos for 12 reps, I would write 60 times 12. I also like to give the session a rating out of 10, so I base this on how I felt and how the sessions felt for me, and then I'll write some notes at the bottom as well about things I could potentially change or even keep the same next time round to either benefit my training or just things that have happened that were a little bit of an anomaly and wouldn't normally happen. So that is exactly how I go about progressing my lifts, setting up my logbook and using my logbook to help me in terms of my progressions when it comes to training. If you guys have got any questions about anything that I've said in this video or about progressive overload in general, progressing your lifts and using a logbook, please comment them down below and I will get those answered for you. Other than that, thank you very much for watching and I will see you in the next video.